Mr. Baker, you obviously play a lot of video games yourself.
Yeah.
We were having a bit of a chin wag before we went live here about what you've been playing. What have your kind of top games of this year been so far?
It's been a weird year because we were promised all the coming of the consoles were coming, and invariably because you have so much potential in those things, you also can almost overdevelop sometimes, or expectations are so high that we've seen every game, like 2015 games are going to be the best 2014 games because there was so many that got pushed.
Yeah.
And so it was actually kind of cool for me because normally it's like, especially November, and this November has been crazy too. There's like 6 games that have released in the last 2 weeks, but it really kind of gave me a chance to really focus in on one game as opposed to playing it for a little bit and then another game comes out. I feel like I have to get into that, and so I kind of have like these. I'm like the girl in the signs where there's like all these half-drunken cups of water everywhere. But this really kind of gave me the chance. We started off with Second Son. I think Second Son was a phenomenal task and a lot of fun. Great replayability because you can either go blue or red, and most people did it in that chance. You could go play it good, then play it evil. I had a lot of fun with that and had one of the best DLCs with First Light, with the Fetch character played by Laura Bailey. And then I was really happy with, it was like a great DLC year because some of the things so many people were focusing on pushing their next gen console actual titles to the next year.
Did you play The Last of Us?
Yeah, dude, Left Behind was fantastic. It was so good, and in some ways it was not better than The Last of Us, but it was great because it was just such a condensed story that fit in perfectly with the rest of the narrative, that even if you hadn't played the main campaign, the main story, then you could jump into there and it would make you, it made to me have the main game have more weight to it because there's some stuff that plays in, because essentially it's a prequel. So that was 2 fantastic ways to start off the year. And I loved playing the remastered version, to see The Last of Us being 60 frames, 1080p, whatever. But it wasn't just this cosmetic thing. There was so much of that world and so much of that experience that was made up of the environment. And I spent more time just exploring more than I ever had before. And it had been like 6 months or 8 months since I played it last, so I got to come back and actually be surprised and forget some things. And
you said you were playing GTA 5 as well.
We played, honestly, I think GTA 5 had one of the best. We just started the remastered, which is, if you haven't transferred, if I played under a profile underneath my account.
Right.
So I lost everything.
When you did the transfer?
Because you can't transfer your profile.
Right,
you can only transfer your account. So everything that I leveled up, all the money that I had, my safe house and everything else, gone. And so that kind of sucks. But
how much time did you put into the previous gen?
So many. And I had millions. I was a mogul in that town.
It was boring then. You needed to start from the start.
I did, but there's so many things that I forget. Like I jumped online with my mates and we started playing, and they're like, "All right, let's get up here. We're gonna parachute over Fort Zancudo." And so I jump out of the plane like everybody else. Realized, no parachute. And so I watched myself just do this thing the entire way down.
Have you done that in first person yet?
Yes.
Jumped out of the plane?
The skydiving in first person is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying. You can't
see
anything. It's almost impossible. But I think GTA had some of the best. I was, multiplayer can go either way on a lot of times. I'm really a story guy. I want a good campaign. But in some ways I felt that the multiplayer experience was even more incredible than the single player experience. Even from like a systemic developer standpoint, to have 2 independent assets working in concert together in online space is just, that's a tremendous feat. So I really give it to Rockstar for that.
From the 3 games you were mentioning, it sounds like open world, or at least like universes that are believable, are kind of important to you.
Yeah, I want to be grounded. Don't just give me a multiplayer experience. I got to be honest with you, with Titanfall, I think, obviously we've got the legacy of Call of Duty coming into that and trying to go bigger and better. But really, I want to know what the world is, and I want to experience. I like playing through a campaign and going, I can't wait to play this map, in multiplayer. It's gonna be so cool. I hope they do this level as something in multiplayer. But to be completely honest with you, and I'm gonna sound totally biased, but I think what I've put the most amount of time in.
Oh, here we go.
Was Shadow of Mordor. Yeah. When we went to E3, you always hope that you're going to make a good game, and while we're making the game, Monolith is making the game. So a lot of times it's theater of the mind. We have no idea what things are going to look like. It's like we can describe it to you and we can give you like a grayscale model, but we're building it right now, so it doesn't actually exist. And so it's like Christmas morning every time I get a game because I get to finally see. I never get spoiled for my own games because every time, invariably, when I actually sit down and play it, I'm like, oh, so that's what it looked like. But when we went to E3 and the most brilliant idiot stroke of genius that they had was to actually run live code of the Nemesis system on the floor in front of people, which, I mean, huge margin of error. It could have gone horribly wrong. And everybody walked out, and I saw so many people that literally got right back in queue to watch it again because they wanted to see what would happen the next time. And so it made me super excited about it, and when I actually sat down and played, there were some sleepless nights, man. And again, me and my friends jumped on and played, and I loved the fact that you could have vendetta missions, like, hey, Travis Willingham just died, he got his, head cut off by, Orc the gallbladder or whatever, and
Orc the gallbladder.
I'm like,
it's in the game, Michael.
That guy is going to die, and I'll say this because I know we got to move on. But my favorite thing is when you start off, and I would even like text people from the team, like Ethan, dude, help me. What do I got to do? He's like, dude, run. That's what you have to do when you first start off. You just run, and I'm a pussy, and you run, and then you level up, and you get better and stronger and faster. And the first time I walked into a stronghold, an Uruk stronghold, I was like, there's 10 people, and you hear that horn blow, and you're like, this is my death, and you get back, and you watch one guy go from level 2 to level 12, and now he's a captain, then he's a war chief, and like, because he killed you one time. And it gets so frustrating, but then when you finally level up, there's such a rewarding, like, satiating, significant power that comes from when you walk into that stronghold and you hear, and you just go, come on, bring it on. You just stand there and you just become a badass. So that was to me one of the most rewarding, addictive, it's a time vampire. I mean, I can just get lost for hours in there. I think I've put over 200 hours.
Oh man, all right.
Yeah. So.
We'll be talking more about Shadow of Mordor and its DLC with Michael the Platter from Monolith, who's going to come on in just a second.